What's up, guys? Welcome back. Amazing RC. It's your boy Brian. Today we're talking carbon fiber, and specifically for our C34 over here. Now, if you guys remember, in the last video, we were talking about taking our two metal chassis rails here and duplicating them in carbon fiber. And well, in this video, it's exactly what we're going to do. And I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. Now, I went over a few different ways on how to do this, and over the last week, I think I came out with the perfect way, and that's the way I'm going to show you. So basically, we've got our sheet of carbon fiber here. You can get this on Amazon or really anywhere. I got 1.5 millimeters thick because that's exactly how thick the chassis rails are in their stock form. That's very important because when you're building this and you've got, your motor in between the chassis rails and then something on the outside of the chassis rail and then something that bridges those two together, if the chassis rails are not the correct size, it's going to throw all of your pieces off, and something along the way is just not going to fit right. So I went ahead and measured our chassis rails at 1.5 millimeters, and it's exactly what I got in our carbon fiber. Also, always check the length of your chassis rails to make sure that you get the correct length of carbon fiber as well. This is not a normal size sheet of carbon fiber. Most of them come a few millimeters shorter than this. I think I ended up with a 200 by 300 millimeter sheet of carbon fiber, and that's perfect. So in order to get basically, this into this, it's not as difficult as it looks, but it's very easy to screw up. Remember, all of these little holes here go to something, so they have to be in the right spot. Now, if you just went freehanding, holes in this thing, chances are when you go to drill one of the holes, your bit's gonna walk 1/2 inch off to the right, and you're gonna pop a hole in the wrong spot. I'm gonna show you how to get around that. What you're going to need are as follows. You gotta get a rough cut out first. And one of the best tools that I've got in RC, if you don't have one already, is just a rotary tool. And I've got a Dremel here, but you can pick up really any rotary tool. Harbor Freight, doesn't really matter. One of the things you kind of want to look for, spend the extra couple dollars and get a variable speed. You're gonna thank me in the long run. So we've got our rotary tool, and as far as bits goes, you can get away with just the normal stuff that comes with it, a little cutting wheel and a little sanding dowel. That'll get you through it. Now, you can also go to the store and spend $20 on like something like this that comes with like 1,000 pieces of everything you don't need. Well, if you did that, then you're gonna have other little bits like these little guys right here. And what these are gonna do is allow me to get into these little 90-degree corners here. Even with your smallest sanding dowel, you're not gonna get into that 90-degree corner. It's also, most of the time, not really necessary to get into that 90-degree corner, but we'll go over that in a future time. Now, once you get all of your little Dremel tools ready to rock and roll, keep in mind, you still gotta poke some holes in this thing. So I went ahead and pre-selected my 2 bits because I have 2 different size holes that are gonna have to go in this chassis. Now, how I sized these perfectly was basically take the back end, the non-drilling end, and use that to get through the little hole and see. Now, even if it doesn't go through right away, remember these were powder coated. So give it a little bit of business and you can see that you can finally work its way through there. Basically, it's knocking the powder coating off of it, and this is the best size for that hole. So we've got size number 1, and for the larger hole, we've got size number 2. Now, this is a little looser, but you notice that it's not really super duper loose, and some of the holes are, to be honest with you, a little bit different size than the other ones. But as far as they go, there's 2 general sizes on here, and here are our 2 general size bits. Once we basically take a little marker here and mark out 2 shapes, just little rectangles, kind of rough cut them out, what I'm gonna do is, I don't wanna waste too much of my carbon fiber here, so I'm gonna get these you know, relatively close to each other to where I can zap a straight line here and then go ahead with my cutting wheel and chop this one out in a nice rough cut. Now, once I get two separate pieces, this is where my ingenious idea comes from. What I'm gonna do now, once I get those done, is I'm going to stack all four pieces together in like a sandwich. I'm gonna take my two pieces of carbon fiber and stack them right in between these two pieces, bam, until I have no missing areas. Basically, I've got chassis rail, carbon fiber, and chassis rail. Then I'm gonna take two of my small holes. We've got the top of the shock tower here and the top of the shock tower here. The reason why I'm choosing these two is because if you remember, those were really snug when I tried to get my drill bit through them. Well, that tells me if I go ahead and lock them down with a nut and a bolt on both sides through both of these sheets of carbon fiber, bam, pop the holes through there and there, lock all four pieces down, I'm gonna have like this weird looking brick of carbon fiber and chassis rail. Well, I'm gonna then use my metal chassis rail as a pattern. As long as I've got two bolts locking the chassis down to the carbon fiber, nothing's going to slide off. My sanding dowels are going to be able to ride along, basically chew away the extra carbon fiber and then ride along our metal here. As long as I'm not crazy with the sanding and all pressure, then I shouldn't get into the metal at all. Once I sand all of that extra carbon fiber away, then I'm gonna take my cool other little bits I've got here and I'm gonna get into these corners nice and neat. When I'm done with all of that, I should have what basically looks like one chassis rail from the side with two bolts stuck in it. Very cool. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna remove the bolts, take the two pieces of carbon fiber, which will be sandwiched in between these two, and I'm gonna take this top piece and swap it to the bottom. So now I've got metal, carbon fiber. And the reason I'm gonna do that, of course, we're gonna bolt it back down, same spot. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the steel on top, carbon fiber on the bottom, and we're gonna use the double thickness steel as a jig for our drill bits. So now, almost like a drill press, because when I've got my drill and I'm doing one of these, God only knows where that drill bit's gonna go, and I just spent an hour chopping this out of carbon fiber. The first and last thing I wanna do is not screw this thing up. So we're gonna go ahead and get our metal on top ×2 and use that as a drill press to make sure that our drill bit goes directly exactly where we want it. Once we punch all of these holes, oh wait, there is one more thing. I'll be right back. You are also gonna want a random piece of wood. What this is for is so you don't blow the back of your carbon fiber out. Now, if you just start ramming holes through this thing, whatever the last piece of carbon fiber is at, you're just gonna blow chunks of it out. So in order to alleviate that, basically take your little carbon fiber steel sandwich here and you're gonna set it on top of a piece of wood. Now, when you take your drill and you take your bit and you go through the steel and into the carbon fiber, try to use the weight of the drill for most of your pressure. It's gonna chew through the carbon fiber as long as you got a good sharp bit. But once you get through the carbon fiber, this little piece of wood here, for some reason, stops the blowout, or at least 95% of it. The wood is good to have. Now, once you get all of these holes drilled out, now you can take your two bolts back out and kablam, just like that. We've got a metal set and our carbon fiber set. And I'll tell you guys, I'm very, very excited at how this came out. It took me about 2 hours to make them. That was all the video cuts that you've seen prior. And then, you know, the drill into the holes. I basically took a piece of sandpaper, I think it was 320, went ahead and broke the edges. Because remember, these are sandwiched between two metal, you know, chassis rails. So these are exactly flat and they're like knives by the time you get them out of there. So they're nice and smooth and soft right now. One of the things I didn't do that I said I was going to previously is I did not take the 90-degree notches out of here because, to be honest with you, There isn't much of a, there isn't much extra there, so it's not really hurting anything. And unless it's in the way when I build the truck to some component somewhere, it's going to give a little bit more rigidity where it's needed. So, guys, every one of these holes are in exactly where they're supposed to be because, again, we sandwiched in between two of the patterns. I'm super duper jacked, guys. Super duper jacked. The very next video that we do, we're going to go ahead and get some assembly going on. We're going to get this killer motor and transmission married with our two brand new carbon fiber chassis rails. It's just nice to think I've got carbon fiber chassis rails for a C34. It's bananas, guys. I tell you right now, I'm super, super jacked. Until next time, this is Brian, and this is an amazing RC. Might not look like it yet, but it is.